founded an app with my co-founder called Dryy, which is one of the fastest growing alcohol-free apps in the country, and it's expanding massively in the world. I always worked in the fashion industry in the West End of London, party with really beautiful people all the time, and you get paid for it. I was like, you can't beat that life. You get to have free clothes, you get free watches, you get to go to free events, you get to drink champagne, you get to sniff gear, party with really beautiful people all the time. I was living it, like I was living it hard. Tragically, in 2013, my son died of what was cot death, but it's also sudden infant death syndrome. So my life went from like having it all to having nothing. And then someone told me about going to see like a psychic medium, and it was something I'd always thought was bullshit. She's pointing something down and she's holding something, and she was like, "It's your son." And I just burst out crying, and I was like, what the fuck? It's that acknowledgement of the spirituality side, and that all happened for a reason. And that reason might have been for me to be put on this planet to actually go and help shitloads of people. And actually, if that's what I needed to do, the downside of it was I lost my son, because that enabled me to be the person I am today.
So sorry, welcome Matt. How you doing, mate?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, really good. Thanks for coming down. I stumbled across your, maybe I think it was Instagram. I think it might have been November. And not going into the details, but I was going through a pretty turbulent time at work, and I was drinking a lot, and going through a bit of a weird phase where it was like on a weekend I just make an excuse to just get smashed because I'd think it would help me, it would calm me down because I've had a busy week and all that stuff. And seeing your content really helped me, actually. And then I told Pete about you, and I sent it across to Pete, and then obviously we'll go into it, but Pete's been in recovery how long now?
4 years in August it'll be, yeah.
4 years. And then obviously, you know, working with Pete now on this project and knowing him for so long, and then seeing your page, I was like, I think this is a conversation I'd like to have.
Yeah.
The things you were talking about on your social media, I think, are really important. Not just for people who think they might have a problem with drugs or alcohol, but for everyone, because alcohol's so normalized in society now, and the way you talk about it is really candid and honest. And so that's why I wanted to get you down today. So thank you for coming.
It's all right, mate. Thanks for having me. I kind of took a bit of a pause on podcasts because I'd done so many and spoke about my story so many times. I was like, I need to have a chill. But yeah, it's quite nice to get back into it. So thanks for having me.
No, of course. Well, you just said there, I was going to ask you about your story, but if you've talked about it a million times, you can make it short. But again, just for our listeners, a little bit of a context about who you are and a little bit about your journey. Don't need to go down the rabbit hole, but just a little bit about it.
Yeah, no worries at all. It's the really important picture, and sort of paints two different lifestyles, I suppose. So yeah, I always worked in the fashion industry in the West End of London, and had various jobs, worked for various big brands, and kind of worked my way up. And I always saw like the big bright lights as like my future, and I was like, I love this. This is like brilliant. It's like you get to have free clothes, you get free watches, you get to go to free events, you get to drink champagne, you get to sniff gear, you get to, you know, just party with really beautiful people all the time, and you get paid for it. I was like, you can't beat that life. And so I was living it, like I was living it hard for a long time. And during which time I was also on the side, like living a very homely lifestyle. So I'd earn a decent salary. We were build a nice house. I was married. I had a girl and a boy. So I thought kind of I had it all, because I had the best of both worlds, if you like. And then like tragically in 2013, my son died of what was cot death, but it's also sudden infant death syndrome, SIDS. He was 4.5 months old, so it's quite an old baby to diet for that. It's usually within the first 3 months. Okay. So my life went from like having it all to having nothing. It felt like, and everywhere I looked, you know, it was difficult to find support, because if you look at your parents, they're all broken because they've lost their grandkid and their son's lost their kid. You know, you look at your friends and they don't know what to say to you. You look around you and think, shit, what do I do? So everything I did for fun and for happiness and for sadness was drinking drugs. So I sort of just carried on going down that route. I thought, well, someone said to me, time is a healer. And I thought, well, drinking and session makes time go really fast. So let's do that for a bit. So I went down that route, and that just happened for a couple of years. I was really sad, really depressed, but carrying on, marching forward, being the big man, trying to take it all on myself, until it kind of got hold of me. And I'd been to see some really big counsellors in the city, really expensive counsellors, and I just sat opposite them, and they were in a suit, and they were just a guy, and I just thought, I don't connect with you, and I didn't really get it at all. So I just went a couple of times just to appease people, but didn't get anything from it. So I just, again, cracked on. And then someone told me about going to see like a psychic medium, and it was something I'd always thought was bullshit, to be honest. What they're going to tell you, you great nans looking down at you or whatever. So what I thought. And so I went to see this random woman. I told her my name's Matt. I booked a session. I went to her house, and in that session, it kind of changed everything, because I went in there and I thought, who knows what's going to happen. And the whole first 3/4 of the session was like, I was getting the buy-in for it. Some of the things she was saying, I was like, okay, that's really like interesting. That's exactly how I feel, exactly where I am. She was reading cards. She'd written me a letter before I came in about my life, and it was bang on. I thought, wow, this is mad. And then right at the end of the session, she was saying like, there's some spirits around you. Is there anyone you want to speak to? And I was keeping it all blasé. I hadn't told her anything. So I was like, no one in particular. And then she was like, there's a lady behind you, and it's your great grandma. And I thought, there we go. That's the one. That's what I thought they would say. And they were like, she's pointing something down, and she's holding something. And she was like, it's your son. And I just went, and I just burst out crying. And I was like, what the fuck? And at that point, weirdly, she went on to say, oh, he's all right, he's a reoccurring spirit, he's been here before, like really like making light of it and like lightening the whole thing. And knowing he was all right was like a big thing for me, because when you lose a child, the weirdest and most horrible thing is when you go to bed at night and you don't know where they are and they're not there. It's just the most awful feeling. And to know that, oh, he's all right, she was like saying, he's fine, he's been here before. And from that moment on, I went back. She was holding my hand, so I was like obviously sobbing, and I was like, "Can I come back? Can I come back and see you like next week?" It's the first time I felt any like sense of relief. And she looked at me in the eye and she went, "Don't worry, darling. If we ever need you, we'll come to you." And I thought, oh, that's interesting. But I went out there and I sort of skipped out a bit, and I thought, right, okay, maybe I can get my life back on track. Didn't. Went down got caught up in the daily use of drinking drugs and back in that trap again. Although it helped me feel good in the time, it didn't deal with the problem, pull the root out. So I ended up kind of losing everything, just gradually, as you do when you're sniffing your head off. I lost my marriage, and I lost my house, and I wasn't sure where I was living. I was walking around London with a bag of stuff, and I didn't. From one day to the next, people at work were sort of pushing me to each other. You can watch him now, and you can watch him now, and taking it in turns to look after me while I was just sat in pubs without anywhere to go. People were super generous and giving me like hotel rooms and stuff, and I was totally lost, rock bottom. Just didn't want to be here anymore, but didn't have the bollocks to like do anything about it. So I was doing it kind of by overdosing through drinking drugs. And then I stood outside this pub in Regent Street, which is where I used to always drink, and this guy just come up to me out of nowhere, and he was like, I need to speak to you, and he started talking really fast. He gave me a bit of paper and he screwed it up in my hand, and he was holding my hand while he was talking to me, and I was half cut, and I thought, what the fuck's going on? And I was with my mate Ryan, thankfully, because he was with me to witness it, but he was telling me all this stuff about my life again, like out of nowhere, telling me I've got 2 sisters, I've got no brother, I was born here, just random stuff. And he was like, you're close to a flower, you're close to a flower, you're close to a flower. And he kept repeating himself. I was like, what's this guy talking about? And he was going, you've got a girl who's coming to your life, Kay is good for you, Kay is good for you, Kay is good for you. And he was repeating all these things. And I was thinking, what's he talking about? And he said, you need to stop these bad habits, and life is good for you. Life is good for you. You're going to live long. You're going to help lots of people. You're important. People need to hear your voice. And he was like making gestures of like drinking, smoking, sniffing. And he kind of disappeared like that. It was about 20 minutes chat, but he just disappeared into like Regent Street. And I looked at my mate and I was like, what the fuck just happened? And I opened this bit of paper and it had a flower, a lily drawn, and my daughter's called Lily. And I was like, well, and he'd written a flower, and then he'd written a lily next to it, and then he'd put K, and he put equals Kirsty. And I'd started, as you do, drunk single man on his own, been on Tinder, flirting around, and I was chatting to this girl called Kirsty, who I'd actually met for a drink in town. and really got on with her. But I was a bit fucked, and she was a bit like, what is going on there? And all this bit of paper kind of had, like, again, validation of it. And I kind of realised in that moment that this was the spirit world, like, coming back to me when I needed it. And
from the conversation that she said, welcome to you, right?
And I was like, oh fuck! I just had this like resounding like realization, and from that point on, I felt like someone had put me back on the track. That's how I describe it. I felt completely lost, but I was like, actually, no, you're fucking right. I am someone who's going to be good in the world. I am someone who's going to do good. I am going to knock that shit on their head. And gradually, the process. I rang Kirsty, and I said to her, I need to see you. I dropped the booze for a bit, saw her, got on really well, but I moved in with her a week later.
A week?
Because I had nowhere to live. I was like, can I live with you?
Oh, wow.
She let me live with her, and now we're married and we've got our own daughter. So she was a massive part of my recovery and still is a massive part of my recovery. But yeah, so my story went from all that singing and dancing in the West End, living the life, to thinking I've had nothing, suicidal, spiritual world intervened. And then ever since that, I've just been on a bit of a mission to change my career, which I did, and to work in service of others, really. And rather than like trample all over people and be horrible to people, and as you become a nasty version of yourself when you drink and drug, I want to like give back and make up for anything that anyone I've hurt. So ever since, that's what I've done, and I've been pretty relentless with it. And I've started, I've done my Instagram account. I've got a men's community I do called Off The Sesh, which we've just been in Scotland together this weekend, just gone, which is just still focused around men's mental health and just men that don't drink anymore and doing the next thing and trying to make it fun and not sitting around chatting about what happened to us 10 years ago, focusing on where we're going, where we want to be. And I was founded an app with my co-founder called Dryy, which is one of the fastest growing alcohol-free apps in the country, and it's expanding massively in the world. And that's at a really pivotal time because that's about to go bang, because we're raising some investments to take it to a whole nother level, and that's where we're at. So it's been a wild 10 years, but yeah, that's my story in a very sort of small nutshell.
Wow, you've blown your head off that, because I never heard that. I've saw clips a bit that you put out, but not in that depth. That's incredible.
No.
Wow.
I mean, we seem to be getting like, there's been a bit of a kind of almost otherworldly spiritual vibe that's been creeping into recent conversations.
Well,
this week, this week
especially.
Yeah.
And also, we should change the podcast name to Of Service, because last week we spoke to have all said, weirdly, all different people, all different industries, that they want to be of service. And then you just said it again there. That's the third time we've heard it this week.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, wow. So I just can't get my head around the person in the street who give you the piece of paper. So they just came off the street and it just blew my head off, that bit.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you do, in hindsight, you do see them about. I've always been in the West End, so there's these guys that are usually kind of Indian or Asian, and they're kind of walking around. You don't see it very often, but you do see it, and they do that almost like on the street spiritual readings, or like they just pull towards you. But that was just, I think that's sort of who it was. But it was really weird. Even my mate who was with me was like, "What the fuck just happened?" Like, and we've both been around for a long time, and it just, when it happens to you, it was the maddest thing.
And it's super interesting that the reader, the person who you went for the reading, they told you, it's all right, we'll come to you.
Yeah.
How long? What was the difference in time between that and then that happening?
Probably about 2 years.
Oh wow! So it was actually a decent amount of time.
Yeah, and I'd gone, like I said, gone out that first reading, like skipped out and thought I'd solved all my problems.
Yeah.
But obviously, in hindsight, it's a bit stupid because it's just something to make you feel temporarily better. But yeah, my life was built around drinking and drugging. So I'd get off the tube box of circus, and I became this character that was like the man in town, who kind of knew everyone in the local shops and saying hello to the darling behind the counter in the coffee shop, and kind of just thought that was my world, and it distracted me from what I was going through. So I'd be there like early morning till late at night every day.
Yeah. That was your identity at the time.
Definitely, and it's still, people know me as that, so it's fine. I think it's hard for people that know me from then to see me now online. I get messages from people like, "What the fuck? Who are you?"
Yeah, it's amazing.
Bear Chat is powered by Tenzing Natural Energy, as pure as your morning coffee, but without the jitters.
Whether it's the early morning grind, the afternoon slump, or the pre-workout that you need for that session, we've got you covered. It's 100% plant energy, no added sugar, and definitely no crash. Just clean, natural energy to keep you going.
And because we love you, anyone listening to this show gets 30% off. So quote BEAR30 to get your boost.
I really resonated and understood what you were saying when you were talking at the start about the industry that you chose. Because I chose an industry for the same reasons, I think, looking back. I've spoke to you about this. I was a DJ professionally for 6-7 years, and I found this job which enabled me to stay out late, play music, which I like doing, but get off my head. And it was given to me, and it was almost enabled. I've mentioned this before, but you go to the hotel rooms. I don't know, I'd get off in Argentina and I'd go to the hotel room. The gear would be in the hotel room, in the drawer, in the desk. And I'd get to the booth and people are giving you shots. You've got a rider with a bottle of tequila and Grey Goose, and there's lines behind the booth. And it's just this constant barrage of enabling bad habits and enabling bad behavior. And I just, when you were saying it, it just sounded like me. You know what I was like when it was at its peak, but that was me. That was exactly the same as me, just a different industry. And I gravitated towards that because everyone else had the problem, not me. I'm just doing my job, you know?
Yeah.
And you were working in the West End doing exactly the same. And I lived that identity for years. And
do you know what as well? I fucking loved it.
I
absolutely loved it. But it's not sustainable. And I did it for a long time, it had most of it had some of the funniest times of my life, and I had brilliant times, but it was also, the longer you do it, the ailments start creeping in, the age starts creeping in, I was getting like heartburn so much because I was living such a wild lifestyle that I was struggling to even keep drinks down. It was like getting to a point where I was like, hey, Gaviscon, sip. Like, so it was, it's starting to catch up with you in all areas of your life.
Yeah.
So that all came at the right time, really, where I was just like, I think I've done it, I've completed it, I did a really good job, I loved it. But it's time to move on to another chapter.
Well, you've had a lot more going on with your personal life, and my condolences for your son. And there was obviously a lot to go through. When it was in my situation, if it wasn't for lockdown, I actually don't know where I would be now, because the fact that I couldn't go and perform in a nightclub or a festival, whatever it was, meant that I had to stay at home and look at myself in the mirror. And I looked at myself, not just spiritually, but physically looked at myself in the mirror and saw my body and saw my face, and I was saggy and grey, and it was just a real wake up moment. But there's so many things in your story. Even, was it like a 10-year period you just described there?
Yeah, mine came in lockdown as well. The transformation came in lockdown because same thing, like the pubs and bars shut. I was on furlough, and I was like, and I'd already started like taking a few breaks. Like I said, I'd met Kirsty, moved in with her, and then I was having a few weeks off the booze. I was feeling fucking great, and then I was like, I don't think I want to do that forever, because it was too much to go from one extreme to the other.
Yeah.
So I'd go back in and I'd do a mad session all weekend. I'd be like, no, actually, I feel like shit. So let's do a few weeks off the booze again. So I'd experimented, and then lockdown came along, and I was like, this is my chance to just go one way or the other. And I spent the first couple of weeks like getting on it, and I was like, this is brilliant. Like sunny outside, in the garden, beers, getting on it, like nothing to worry about. It was almost like the perfect storm. But then, because it gave me all that free time and space, it made me really, I was like, actually, and I was seeing people, like everyone was going around doing that 5K thing and holding their fingers out and writing people's names in it.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Like stuff like that. People, everyone seemed to suddenly start running, and I was outside. And I remember looking at that, feeling like really hanging. And I thought, this is my chance to get out of this shit. And one day, April the 21st, so like probably 3 or 4 weeks into lockdown, I was like, that's it. And then I was off. I was like, literally off straight away. And I didn't really hesitate because it was so easy and it felt so good so quickly. I was like, this is me now. And then I started sharing my journey on Instagram, and it sort of went from there.
Did you go down the AA or NA routes or not?
No, because the thing is, right, I'm an all or nothing person, so I can do nothing. And I could go, like I said, a week or two without it. Like, I could do that. I wasn't like waking up and drinking. And most weeks I would probably not drink, definitely Monday and Tuesday, maybe sometimes Wednesday. So it was a Thursday onwards kind of thing. But I felt like I could take it and leave it, but it was just too much of the taking it. So I didn't feel like I needed any external help. And and actually that's one of the reasons we set up Dryy, was because we wanted to create somewhere that people could go that didn't involve AA, because AA is only for selected people that feel comfortable in that environment, whereas ours is a lot more casual and fun, and probably for people a bit further down the line in terms of like middle lane drinkers, not people that are sort of alcoholics or addicts. I class myself as just someone who was just a bit of a pisshead, and I don't like using those terms particularly because I don't think they're helpful for me going forward.
Yeah, labels and stuff we've mentioned a few times. They have a purpose, but I think it can be detrimental as well. You know, labeling yourself as a certain thing, whether it's addict or alcoholic or whatever.
It's whatever works for you, isn't it?
Yeah, no, completely.
But some people like that, and they need that level of discipline and almost aggression. I'm an addict, and that's me. Like, whereas I'm like, fuck that. I don't want that label because I don't want to carry that around with me, and I don't want that to be who I am in 10 years. I want to get out of that and move away from it. So if you're constantly saying it, you're reinforcing it, and if you're reinforcing it, you'll stay it.
We actually had a conversation about this in Nando's the other night, remember? And I've been to some meetings, and the first two that I went to were really helpful for me. And I've done all sorts of therapy, but it felt like a therapy session where I came out and I was like, wow, like a massive weight, almost just, because I just went, bleh, like it's stuff that I wouldn't normally mention maybe to my wife or even to Pete, who's one of my best friends, you know, just like get it all out to a room of people I didn't know. But there was just something about it where I'm just like, I understand that I could see myself going down a really dark path, you know, with these stresses of the businesses and personal, whatever it is, right? Just fill in the blank. I could see myself going down a bad path because I've been there before, where I actually mentioned to you yesterday on the train, and you, again, I'm weaving quite a bit here, but you said something about living the past and looking forward instead of living the past. Like, oh, this is what I used to be like. We went through Clapham Junction yesterday, and I went, oh, because this is why I used to live in Battersea, right? And he said, I used to get off here at Clapham Junction, and I wouldn't get the train to Queenstown because I get off and I go pick up and I go home. And I'm living these past memories. It's like almost like it's like still me, but it's not.
Yeah.
Not being that person for fucking 5 years. I mean, obviously, I've had these moments where I've kind of drank too much, like last year, and was seeing myself wanting to have a drink and all this stuff. But that me that I'm talking about getting off at Clapham Junction and picking up 6-7 years ago, I'm not that person anymore. So I can't remember how I got into that. But what were we talking about before that?
The terms, addicts, and
That was it.
Yeah,
the meetings.
so meetings for me, I've only been to a handful. I think it's as a program. I mean, I've only been to NA, but as a program, I think it's incredible, and a lot of people tell thousands of people all over the world, tens of thousands of people. But I also think I don't think it's the only way to go through something like what I'm kind of going through now, and like what you've just said. You don't want to be looking in 10 years' time going, I'm an addict still, and that's where my mental situation is now. But I still don't know what it is I want to do and how I want to approach my personal situation. I just didn't feel that it was right for me, and I think that's okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a single pathway to anybody doing what they're doing. I think ultimately it's the moment when we realise and we accept that something's not right within. Because for me, I was always masking and putting a brave face on, running a successful business, achieving all my goals externally, and everyone would always ask me, are you all right? And I'd say, yeah, I'm fine. And towards the stage of my rock bottom, I clearly wasn't all right, but I was telling everybody that I was all right. And I just think that it's whatever it is outside of you that you're able to use as a tool to then help you start to do the building and repair work of the foundations inside. I don't think there's anything that's right or wrong, and I don't think there's anything that is the same for everybody else. I just think whatever it is that works for you, and you continue doing that, you find then that you start to meet like-minded people. You know, you meet people who have developed a Dryy app, or you sit on a podcast and you're having a conversation. For me, the power of meetings, or the power of just listening to another human being, I'm not here to judge, I'm just here to learn. The minute that I stop listening and the minute that I become unteachable, I think is the minute that I'll go back to that older version of me that was kind of not connected, because I think community is a key part. And in UK culture, drinking culture has been prominent most of our lives because of our forefathers, because of our ancestors going to world wars, fighting world wars. What was it that everybody used to do? Go to the pub, So we almost have that stage in life now where going to the pub used to be something that was so accessible, which is now kind of dying out. Although going to bars and drinking after work and living high city life is now the kind of like the newer thing in modern day society, and it's acceptable. You know, when we see people drinking to large levels and they're off their heads, and I've done it in the past myself, almost kind of like laughing and chuckling at it. But when you actually think about it, you think somebody's actually not in a good way.
Yeah, when you see someone stumble down the street, I used to be like, "Oh, go on, lad." You know, that was just my instant reaction, like a reflex. And I said this to you yesterday, so now I see it, and I feel like emotional. Yeah, because it almost like you don't know what's going on in that person's life, but they're poisoned and they're on their own. They're not even with friends, and it's. Yeah, I've got a different reaction to it. I'm not judging. Again, I'm not judging because I can't. How the fuck can I judge? None of us could probably judge here in this room. But it's a different emotion now seeing that. So you must have do you have a different view when you see someone absolutely hammered and they're on their own in the street? It's like, do you not feel a little bit different than you used to?
Yeah, and I'm really careful not to like. Be so easy to go, oh, you shouldn't drink. Like,
no, definitely not.
And I don't want. I think where I'm different to other people in the alcohol-free space is that I fucking loved alcohol. I loved seshing. I loved drugs. I loved partying. Like, I just caught up with me, and I was almost forced into like knocking it on the head for a bit, and that opened the door to how good you could feel. And then I was like faced with a decision of, do you want to feel like this, and this feels like it's got loads of room ahead of me and I'm going to get better and better, or do you want to carry doing that and that's going to make me feel worse and worse, and ultimately I'll have to give it up at some point or I'll be boxed up. So yeah, I look at other people that drink with almost like just a bit like, sometimes I feed off their happiness, because I'm like, I look for a pub window in the winter and I see people like cheers in a red wine or whatever, and I sort of makes me smile now. I'm like, I miss that, but I can't have it, because they're probably having one glass of red wine and going home.
Yeah.
I see people seshing. I don't miss that necessarily. I went to a retreat at the weekend and we were up all night doing like therapy stuff, and we got to bed at like 2:30, and we were in the middle of a forest and there was no curtains on the window, and I was freaking out, because I was thinking, those birds are going to start tweeting in a minute. And the sun's going to start coming up. And even though we were all stone cold sober, like,
no way.
It just brought back, I thought, because I'm never up at 2 a.m. So yeah, it's funny how quickly you can get that feeling back. It's like, ooh, shuddery.
Oh yeah, the sunrise. Someone shut curtains.
Yeah.
Loads of times. I mean, for me, with my experiences, how old are you, Matt, if you don't mind me asking?
41.
Well? 41, so I'm 45 now, and kind of my journey, my story, where I kind of click with yours, and same again, sorry to hear about the passing of your son during COVID, and I'll talk a little bit more about COVID in a second, because there's some interesting stats that I came across recently. But I lost my father-in-law to he had an aneurysm, stroke, cancer, and he passed away in the November, and then March COVID hit, and then my dad passed away in May, and then my dad was only like 56, 57. He had that type 2 diabetes, caught COVID, he had sepsis, they didn't treat him for the sepsis, and then he passed away. And so I had them life events, really big things that obviously happened to me, because these are two people that I looked up to and I idolised, and in particular with my dad. You know, we had a really good relationship, so I relate to there's a lot of grief is unique to all of us, as is any kind of addiction or any kind of using. We're all individuals and it affects us in different ways, but the one thing I noticed was that I was turning to alcohol in particular to really numb myself, numb my thoughts. It was a go-to mechanism to just, I'm just going to carry on drinking. And then we know, obviously, the science side of it, your dopamine levels and your endorphin levels crash. You know, you end up eating shit food, and it's just this cycle then. And when you're doing it silently and then you're continuing to do it and the volume keeps going up, that's when you know obviously you're not going to be in a good place. But for me, now I look back and I realise, and I know that I had to go through that. When I'm listening to your story, that's what I'm relating to. It's almost like it's tragic, and it's stuff that some people unfortunately don't actually make it through that kind of tragedy because it's so painful. And even with my story, but I just think your message is one of inspiration and hope to a lot of people out there who probably will find themselves in a similar situation for the personal circumstances and using alcohol or substances. It is a massive part of our culture, but your story transmits the message that how it can get to that rock bottom is a real big rock bottom for you. Losing a young child like that as well, and your wife and your house, that's everything, that's your world. Most people don't come back from that, but the way that you've come back from it, and like you said, rather than carry on doing your career path of what you've done before, you're now wanting to do something that's going to be a benefit to other people. I think your story alone really gives inspiration. I mean, when I was sat listening to it, I was thinking, wow, so relatable to my story, but obviously so different. And that's why I love listening to people. I love speaking to people about it, because I mean, the corporations and the supermarkets when it comes to Christmas and all the rest of it, and I'm the same. I don't look down on anybody who drinks. When people drink and they go out, fantastic. My time's been and come, and I know in my 40s, even without that tragedy, I feel I would have started to naturally transition past that point, because my sleeping would have been terrible. My eating regime, I'd have put on loads of weight, and I always like to try and kind of keep healthy. So what other elements for you did you find that when you started to step into that space where you was like, I'm taking the bull by the horns for myself now, and I'm actually going to make a shift in my life? Was it accepting what had gone on fully and saying to yourself, I'm going to accept all of that now, and then I'm going to move forwards? And then what were the tools that you gathered for yourself to get you down that path of trajectory?
Yeah, I mean, wasn't an acceptance really of what has happened. It was more like utilising the pain for purpose. Like, right. I see it as like I had this like fiery frustration, because it's like, why me? Why'd that happen? And also it's fucking really sad. So then it's like you kind of got two options, and I thought, can I utilise that? Can I use that as a fuel source? And I just did. I tweaked in. I dipped into it a little bit, and I was like, oh, I think I can. And then I was off on a different path, because then I'd gone from thinking I wasn't going to be here anymore, because I was thinking my way out of life, and I was heading in that direction. And then I was like, do you know what? Like, fuck it, I'm going to go for this. I'm just going to do whatever I want to do in this space. I'm going to talk however I talk, and I'm going to try and be as authentic as possible, because if I can carry my own son's coffin down the funeral, then, and also lose everything, and still come back with a positive mental attitude towards ditching the booze and having a better life, then you almost think, well, if someone's having a bad day at work and they think they're going to go and kill themselves, they can look at my story and maybe find some inspiration, like you said. And that isn't like my story is worse than everyone else's, because it's obviously everyone's got their own version of tragedy. But that was in my own head, that was what I used as well. Right, that could be my direction and my purpose, and that's my fuel. And let's go for it and just try and do something different. And so I suddenly just became a bit of a different person. Like, once I ditched the booze, I was looking at people that were getting fit. I was like, I want to get fit. I was looking at people that had written books, and I was like, I want to write a book. I was looking for people that started social media stuff, and I'd already thought I want to, but I'm too like, my ego would get in the way of me doing stuff like that. I thought, fuck it, I'm doing that. So I just was like all in, and I have been ever since. So they're all the tools I still use today. And as what happens in life, you evolve. And I think there's been challenges along the way with sobriety, because you get to a point sometimes where you're like, oh, I'd love to go and get smashed now. There's a lot of the time you don't. Sometimes you see stuff on social media, people getting on it, like just seshing or going to Ibiza and just having a blast for a week, and all the things that you know and have done and loved. And you just think, oh, I do miss that. But then you have to find different ways to get around that, and to negotiate those obstacles as they come. And now I'm in a very different place with it all. I feel like quite calm about that kind of stuff, and I feel like I'm stepping into a newer version of myself. Like this, that my first version of myself was the first nearly 5 years of sobriety. I'm now stepping into, I can feel it like another transformation. I'm doing a lot of transformational work. I'm doing a lot of healing work, and I'm becoming like a more professional, rounded, like serious version of myself. Because I think the first 5 years have been quite playful. Whereas now I'm like, actually, let's just fucking really go for it now. Like, let's really try and help millions of people and try and make a real difference in the world. And so that's the person I'm becoming now.
Wow. Yeah, and I relate to that story as well, because we spoke to Abby recently, didn't we? Remember? And she said what you was saying then, Matt, is she got diagnosed with a really bad cancer, a tumour, and it was 21 inches or whatever. And the doctors basically just said, look, there's nothing else that we can do. And when we were speaking to her, she basically said the same. What I did is it ended up fueling me. I embraced it, but it fueled me then to make a change and a healing within myself. And she was able to kind of reverse it. And then now
weeks to live.
We had weeks to live. And he's kind of, I thought, I'm sure you probably know who he is, but Mo Gordat as well. I've heard him share about when his son Ali passed away, and he went through that dark phase, and it was like, I'm going to use this as something for me in a positive light. And it's almost like a driver. And to get to that point, because there's a lot of people, I've got some friends in Manchester who got to them rock bottom points, but it was that rock bottom that never came back. So I just think stories like yours are really empowering for people to hear that not only can you actually come back from it, you're going to probably find, if you see the journey through, like you said, it doesn't happen overnight, but in 3, 4, 5 years' time, you're going to see this shift of a person that is your full potential of somebody that you probably didn't even recognise before.
Exactly, and the spiritual element is like key to it. Like the spiritual element is key to it in so many different ways, because I didn't know spirituality was a thing. I didn't accept it until I went to the first medium reading. Then the second thing happened, and then I got the buy-in from the spirituality side of it. And then that really helps as well, because if you know and have a perspective that there's more to life than this life, and if you zoom out and see how busy we all are in our crazy little worlds and how unimportant everything is, and if you have that son who's moved on to the next version and he's fine, he's on to the next version, I'll be, so it's almost like I'll be there like in a minute. And life goes so quick, doesn't it? So it's like, it's that acknowledgement of the spirituality side, and that all happened for a reason, and that reason might have been for me to be part of this planet, to actually go and help shitloads of people. And actually if that's what I needed to do, then that's the sort of the downside of it was my son. I lost my son because that enabled me to be the person I am today. But it doesn't mean like I'm not, you know, it's brutal and it's painful every day, but that I do feel like I have this sense of like, well, me dying becomes non-significant anymore, because I'm sort of semi looking forward to it. Do you know what I mean? I've got a very blasé attitude about it, because I'm going to catch up with him. So I've just have a very relaxed, if that come across, like, do you know what I'm saying? I don't know if I'm articulating it very well.
No, it makes sense.
Well, what I'm hearing is it's perspective, right?
Yeah.
You could have looked at that situation completely different. Also, the perspective of addict and what you were saying before is, I just thought it was a bit of a piss head. It's perspective. You could easily someone who didn't know your story, and you had all that what you've just described there on paper. They could look at that and go, addict, right? Yeah. But you're not looking at it like an addict. You're looking at it the way you want to look at it, and that's perspective. And your perspective on your son dying and now what you're doing to help millions of people, that's your perspective on the situation. That perspective could be 100 different perspectives, but that perspective you've got has brought you to where you are today, sat here with us, doing what you're doing.
Exactly.
And perspective is powerful, because it's the same situation, but it's just how you look at it.
Yeah, I really love Matt's story as well of how he's found spirituality, because we all find spirituality in different ways. I've always kind of been a spiritual person in a weird way. When I was taking loads of drugs and loads of different acid and ketamine and all the rest of it, I used to think I was being spiritual because I was coming out of mind and body to a degree, but it's always kind of been there. But the more that I'm living a sober, clean life as these years are ticking by, and it's going to be 4 years for me in August. And when you was talking about your journey over this 5 years, Matt, it's kind of in line with what I'm experiencing. I'm changing so much more, but I'm able to see the simple things that I missed before, whether it's flowers in my garden and I'm looking at the colour of them thinking, wow, or the hike in the morning watching sunrise over the hill, and actually pausing for a minute and capturing the beauty and the energy that's in that moment is something very spiritual. Whereas before I was kind of spiritual, but in a lost world. Whereas now I'm in a world that I'm able to be comfortable navigating through without using something to make me feel okay inside. And now my brain's operating in a completely different way. Like you were saying, them pathways, when they get changed, because like you said, living in the city, high flying job, loving life, getting smashed, in with the culture, ticks all the boxes, year in, year out, to then rewire all of that is not just going to happen overnight. And I think that I love the way that you found spirituality, because it's completely unique to your story and your journey, but it just shows that spirituality is not just either going to a church or going to a mosque or going to a synagogue or going to a 12-step meeting. Spirituality can be found in accepting other people's conversations that come along, whether it's somebody doing a reading for you, or it's a guy in the street who's got a message. That's spirituality in action right there. And that was your calling to then go, I'm going to make a switch now. And you've done it, you know, in a way of getting these signs and these spirituality signs, and you're projecting that out there. And I get that sense from you today. Really, really empowering story, because it's completely different, as everybody is, but really good.
Thanks, mate.
That sorry, just to digress a little bit, but you mentioned something about those moments where you'll see someone in a beef, or they're on the sesh, or maybe not the sesh, but like going in and having a pint or that glass of wine. You said you've got things to help you move past those obstacles. Like, what in those moments where, for people who maybe are trying to go sober but will see something and get a trigger and they'll just go and do it, what are those things that you do or did do in the early days where you had those triggers and you work through them? Is there anything you did in particular that to help you through those moments?
I think the first one is identifying that, because so my term on addict is all or nothing. I use that all the time. All or nothing person. So I can acknowledge the woman through the window having a red wine, and I'm fully aware that she can probably just have a red wine, and I can play the tape forward to myself and think, I could go in there now. There's nothing stopping me going in there and having a pint, except I know that I won't have a pint. I cannot have a pint. Never had a pint in my life. It has to be 2, 3, 4 pints. If I have 4 pints, I might bell it in. If I bell it in, it's fuck knows what's happening. Like, so that's just an acceptance of that. And the other side of that is I'm an all or nothing person in a positive way. So like, put me in an Instagram environment or start my own business, I'm fucking going all in.
Yeah.
And so if I can channel that, and I go all in on a relationship with my kids now, I go all in with my wife. Like, so I channel that in that direction, and I know that when I'm looking through that window and I'm seeing that, I can go, not only can I not do that, but I've also done it and completed it, and also that my personality type is actually much better directed in those ways. So that's the biggest one. But there's more to it than that. There's having, like, I've got my own app. We go live in there every day, so we hold ourselves to account by showing up every day and posting and being in there and delivering messages. So, I've got that accountability that stops me from doing it.
That'd be a big one, the accountability for that, because other people are dependent on that as well.
Exactly. I've got, if I really want a beer, I'll have an alcohol-free beer. So there's practical tools like that. If I'm really feeling like I'm going to drink or want to drink, which doesn't really happen anymore, I'll eat. Like, they're things that over time. If you go and eat a big meal, you don't want a beer suddenly. Drink 4 alcohol-free beers, you won't want a beer. So there's all the mental tips, and there's also the physical side of it as well. But and things like having a morning routine, knowing that will be fucked up if you have a few drinks, and then you fuck it up once and that's gone.
Instantly
gone.
So it seems like, to people that aren't all or nothing, they can look at me and maybe you guys and think, why can't they just have one? And the amount of times I get sent messages and abused online about stuff like that. Oh, someone can't control their drink. It's like, I can't.
You get abused because of that?
Oh, mate, daily. Because it triggers people, doesn't it? But you get to accept it, and I suppose I can't control my drink, but I can in terms of I can give it up. It? I don't know, but. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, for me, from my perspective, I accept it, and I say to myself, I'm glad that I can't control it. No disrespect to anybody who does drink, because if they want to get up and they're fine, feeling low energy, low mood, not motivated to exercise or whatever, I'm not saying that kind of disposition is the be all and end all. But for me, I just know that my body anatomy, a human vessel that I navigate, when I sleep really well at night, and I get up early in the morning, I watch the sunrise, I'm drinking water, I'm not drinking alcohol. The mental imbalance that I had before, that I was trying to keep this balance going by continuously using substances and drink and all the rest of it, it was never going to be sustainable. At what point would that ever be sustainable? Whereas now, I just value and I'm grateful. And for me, my go-to is always when I see people having a great time, I think fantastic, and I can be in that environment now, and I'm surrounded by people drinking. In the early days, I felt uncomfortable. Everybody knows I have a sparkling water, and the minute that conversations start getting repeated, loud shouting in the air, spit coming out of people's mouths, I'm like, I'm going home to my dog.
People tell you how much
I'll
they haven't got a problem with drinking. I can take.
They're having a fantastic time. But I'm glad I'm at a stage in my life where I'm happy and I'm comfortable to say to the fact that I can't control it, and there's no issue in that, because I am controlling it by not having it. But I know that if I have the one, then it's game, set and match, and everything that I'm enjoying now in life. It's like, is it worth the trade-off? Is it worth maybe trying to trade it off? And I'm like, nah, no chance.
Yeah. And do you know what's mad about that? Having worked with thousands of people probably on a group level or one-to-one basis, I've figured out that there are people actually that do drink and that don't really genuinely don't have like negative sides to it. So they can have a couple of drinks a night and they still sleep well. And you can see it through Whoop data and stuff like that. Because I've always been, my first 3-4 years, I was like, basically give up drink everyone because it's fucking much better without it. And I've learned over time that there is different people that don't have it, because we are blessed with this personality trait because it means we're really fucking good at loads of stuff, but we're dangerous. Whereas some people that can have a glass of wine, they'll go and do their 9 to 5 job really well, and they'll drink a glass of wine really well, and they'll be they'll live a very stable life. Like I see myself as live vulnerably like unstable, but have the potential to be great, but also have the potential to be in the gutter. So it's like different personality types generally are reflected in their drinking behaviour, and we can all probably think of people that you can match up and go, actually, yes, she can just have one glass of wine and she's quite stable. You rarely meet someone who's like wild and they just have one drink.
Usually risk takers. People who
Yeah, but then there's also, and you go into the projects that you're involved in now, Matt, and the work that you're doing, which is obviously really valuable with the Dryy app stuff. How long's that been going now?
2.5 years.
2.5 years. You do it with Andy?
Yeah.
Andy, right, yeah.
You know Andy?
Andy, I've, again, come across him on social media about 5 years ago at the early start of my... to be fair, I come across Andy just when I was still at that point where I was just about hitting my rock bottom, and I was thinking in my head, I need to stop drinking. What this guy's saying makes sense. So yeah, I followed him on social media for a while, and again, what he says, and similar to what you say, obviously you guys are doing that together, which I didn't know. That's great, but really powerful. And with the Dryy app stuff in the UK, something that I've noticed in my recent kind of work I'm doing as well, and studies that I think it's in 2023. Just in England alone, alcohol dependency was at 600,000 for adults in just in England, and that has risen from pre-COVID by 42%. So with you guys doing the work with Dryy, in the journey over this past 2 years, have you found that it's just something that's just building and growing massively, because them numbers of people that are turning to alcohol and it becoming a potential problem are growing? So are you seeing that with the work you're doing?
Yeah, definitely. The best way I'm a visual person. The best way to describe it is like, if you imagine a magic wand, like it used to be like a magic wand. So you'd have like the white tip would be sober people. The other white tip would be alcohol dependent people. And in the middle, the black bit would be like everyone else. And what we're seeing now is it's much more like third. And so you stretch the two extremes. So there's far more people stopping drinking, and the younger people aren't drinking as much.
Yeah.
But there's also far more people that were in the middle lane that have moved into that alcohol dependency lane. And that's because they got to drink for 6 months when they were furloughed. That's because the world has got Uber Eats, where you can get a bottle of wine delivered at any time, which seems like a really little thing. But the amount of people I coach that would usually have had that block where they live somewhere where they can't get to a shop. So they'd go home and they'd only have one bottle of wine in the house because they'd only want to drink one bottle of wine, and that'd be it. And now they can Uber Eats another one.
Never thought of that.
It just opens, and and vapes and cigarettes. You can Uber
everything.
You can Uber Eats everything.
Yeah.
So it's changed. It's massively affecting the people that have our personality type, or that kind of addictive personality.
Yeah.
It's a real problem.
Yeah, and I think with COVID, what that shows us as well is the impact. At the time, obviously, when Boris Johnson announced it and the world obviously announced it, and it was like, oh, we've got to stay at home, and initially what seemed like it was the right reasons. But I think the knock-on effect now, as what it's showing through that period, is detachment from community and other people, staying in your home, not exercising, and then being victim to these modern blessings that we can call like, Deliveroos, Uber Eats, all them kinds of things. We can just get things so much more accessible. What it shows is that period, that detachment from what we say is the normal day-to-day life, really impacted people, and it's having a knock-on effect for the years after. Like, I think it's related deaths to alcohol consumption went up as well, like 40% matching that period. So it shows that just alcohol alone in England, not the UK, the amount of impact that it had for there. So across the UK, it would be massive. So I think that's more prevalent, the work that you guys are doing, that's reaching out there to help people to kind of come past that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what we're just trying to do. We're trying to help inspire the people that don't really drink much to not drink. We're trying to help the people that are near the other end to kind of get it back under control by just having a break. And I think that's the bit we're creating, is that like, don't take it too seriously. You don't have to do all or nothing. You can just take a few days off. You can just take a week off if that's relevant to you. You can drink for 50 days of the year, which might seem like a lot, but if you normally drink for 300 days of the year, you've done a fucking great job. And then have a look at the next year and see what that looks like. And mindful drinking and hangover-free living and all these like new taglines that are coming in, just embracing the whole thing, rather than just trying to have a stigma, right, you have to do it this way and that's it, or you have to not drink, you have to feel the pain of your drinking, all that stuff. It's like, just chill out and just see what it's like for you. Have a little peek behind the curtain, because once you see what you see, like I've experienced, you can't unsee that life. And so it's then your choice whether you want to carry on doing that, or a bit of both.
It's a much more down to earth view on it, as opposed to all, like you say, the all or nothing thing. But you have to do it. There's like we were saying at the start, there's not just one way to do this. Everyone's different. What's the stat I was thinking the other day was about Gen Z? 83% of Gen Z, or 83% less people in Gen Z drink compared to previous generations, which is a crazy number. So would you say that when you said it's more like a thirds now in terms of the disparity of the is it non-drinkers, casual drinkers, and then addicted?
Alcohol dependent.
Alcohol dependent.
Alcohol dependent,
Would you say then there's much more younger people on the bottom scale, which is not drinking now, and then
definitely.
So what's the other end then?
It's similar though, because you still see young people getting absolutely smashed as well. So you do. It's probably kind of similar, but what you do see, to your point, is we're like a catch generation. Anyone who's sort of 30 to 50 is kind of in a catch generation, where our parents had no social media, our parents had no colour TVs, and some their life was in the pub, and that was just what happened. So we grew up with that as what our parents did, and we're the ones that are being the beacons of change. We're the ones that are changing the whole message, and we're having to do the work ourselves to then make sure our kids look up at us and don't see the same sort of thing. But on top of that, there's this whole social media platforms that, I was talking to a guy the other day who lives abroad, and he was saying that he used to get tons of people every year at this time of year. They go out there, stag do's, hen do's, boys parties, going out for Cheltenham, getting pissed up, whatever it is, just going to Spain for a big piss up. And he said now he's inundated again by young people that are going out there, and they're all got their cameras and they're all taking pictures of themselves in like they all got their asses out, and they're all doing it for social media, and they're all like photoshopping themselves in beautiful locations, and that's far more important to them than going there with their mates and getting pissed up. And because your own brand is becoming a thing even when you're younger. So I think that's quite a big element of it. But where there's a yin, there's a yang. So there's a lot of people doing that, but there's also a lot of people still getting absolutely shit-faced.
Yeah. What's the goal with the app then? I mean, obviously there's I assume you have a vision, a long-term vision. You're 2.5 years in, did you say now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how many users are you at now? Can you tell us?
30,000.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty good considering we haven't spent any money on marketing or anything. So that's just organic or kind of word of mouth.
Incredible. And what's the vision for like the next couple of years? Like where are you going with it? What's to come?
It's pretty ambitious. We want to be the household name for the alcohol-free lifestyle. So we want, if we're creating an app akin to like a Duolingo kind of thing, like that kind of vibe. But you mentioned Duolingo to someone, they know what it is. Well, they've had a little go at it. And that's our target really, to kind of do what they've done in the languages space, in the alcohol-free space. And that's what we're going to do. So I feel very confident about it as well.
Wow. So what does that journey look like then for the user, Matt? So like anybody, for listeners obviously that'll be listening to this and getting the value out of it, what is it that Dryy app does for somebody that connects with it? What's that look like?
So we're a community, we're the faces of it, and I think that's where we're quite different. So we've got an app, it's a free app, and we show up every day for free, and we want to just give as much as we can to help people. So when I stopped drinking, I looked at Andy Ramage, my now business partner and mate, and he was the inspiration I had. But he was the only one online doing it that I could see. And now there's loads of people doing it. But I didn't have anyone. When I was struggling, I was white knuckling it. When I was thinking I'm going to drink, I just had to force myself not to drink. But I thought to myself the whole time, I was thinking it'd be great if there was like somewhere I could talk to other people that are doing the same thing. So we just connected people by doing that. So we've got, it's like scrolling through Instagram, I suppose, but everyone's on the same journey and everyone's giving up the booze, and it's like a casual approach. Everyone's helping each other out. We've had friendships form. We've got people like with dry tattoos. You know, we've got people that really.
Oh, really? Men?
Yeah.
Class.
We do merch, we do events. So we're just a lifestyle. But the new app that we're doing, which is going to be even better than the one we got now, is just going to be. It's going to be like. Yeah, I can't really tell you too much because we're still not confirmed it, but it's going to be all singing and dancing plus everything we do now, but better. Right. And I think that's what makes us different compared to other people, because we are the front. You know, anyone could go, I've got a few million quid, I'm going to start my alcohol-free app, because the alcohol-free industry is booming. And there are people that are doing that. But when it's got no face and it's got no personality and it's got no presence and community-based, it's kind of different to what we're doing. And I think if we can do what we're doing now on scale and maintain that personal approach, I think it's just going to be such a help to anyone. And we want to like help the people that need the help, but we also want to say to people that don't even need the help, come and try this for a bit. Like you would like come and try Spanish for a bit. You know what? You don't need. I don't fucking live here. I don't need to learn Spanish, but I did because I like Duolingo. And it's like, if you can have that model in the alcohol-free space, think what people you could bring in and improve their life without them even knowing that they need it.
Do you know what that's almost like? It's almost like we were talking to Grant and Elrina about preventative healthcare. Yeah. Right? You don't need to go and look after your body until something goes wrong.
Exactly.
Right? So do something about it before you might go down a path in the future, maybe 5-10 years, you might find yourself in a dark hole. But if you come here and see what this, you know, open that door and look in here and see what you could do or how you could live your life. And even if it's not for them, it's like, all right, fine. But you're almost giving them a preventative solution before they go down that road.
Exactly. And I spoke about Whoop earlier and like Oura rings and stuff like that, but they're giving you a great indication. Even my Garmin, like my heart rate went from 64 resting heart rate to 42 when I stopped drinking. And all I did was stop drinking. And your heart rate variability changes massively. If you can track your sleep, you can see that the REM sleep you get when you drink is nothing. When you don't drink, you're at 2 hours a night.
Even one pint changes it massively.
And it's a sliding scale. So it depends who you are, it depends what you drink and how much you drink. But it fucks it up. There's no doubt about it. You do that consistently. And I mentioned about the Gaviscons. You know, people are doing things like they're drinking iron medicine to make themselves feel less tired because they're drinking. Really? You know what I mean? Yeah, they're taking Gaviscons every day because they're getting heartburn, and they're just plugging the holes with these like prescription medicines. And it's like, if you just stop drinking, like generally all that stuff just dissolves away instantly. You know, skin like eczema, dry skin, all this stuff that alcohol is just slowly killing you with, but you don't realise because you're in a world where you've got boots on every corner, you've got a problem for every solution, or the other way around. And it was amazing. I couldn't believe all the ailments I had that just dissolved away. And I think that's again where people might not necessarily know that's down to alcohol, but if we can encourage them to come in and take a month off, and suddenly that patch of eczema there disappeared, and suddenly they feel a bit brighter, and suddenly their Whoops tell them their recovery is better than it's ever been. We've got half a chance of helping them longer term.
Yeah, I mean, I completely resonate with that, because I, in lockdown, couldn't put my own shoes on, and I'm not. This isn't just an exaggeration. I couldn't put socks on or shoes on because I had so much inflammation in my back and my kind of the lower part of my body that I couldn't bend down. So my wife was having to put my socks on. I was 31, mate. Right?
Why was that from?
So it was a combination of everything, but alcohol is the first thing. But because I've gone from being on tour for like 6 years, right? Just partying every week, sometimes on 4 or 5 flights a week, right? Crazy amount of traveling, but also including that bottles of tequila, loads of gear, loads of ketamine, like, fill in the blank. My body was broken down. And because I wasn't sleeping, because of all the drugs and alcohol, my body was never going to REM sleep. I was always just running on 5-10%. So my body was never recovering. I was told by the doctor, based on the inflammation that they saw on MRI, that I would never be able to do any exercise properly again. And I have the back of a 55-year-old, and I just need to maintain that damage. I mean, now I've never been fitter than any time in my life, even when I was at school. I'm running for 15, 20K. I've done all sorts of kind of challenges now. And it was all down to what I put in my body.
Yeah.
And what my body wasn't doing because it wasn't recovering. And alcohol was the starting point. If I had the alcohol, then I'd have the gear. And if I didn't have the gear, then it wouldn't be sleeping. It was just this knock-on effect. And I don't want to say gateway, but it was always the first pint of the first margarita, which kind of led on to everything else. So back on what you were saying, the elements you don't really realise that are being affected by the lifestyle really shines through when you stop for like a few months and you're like, fuck, that doesn't hurt anymore. Oh my God, my ankle's fine now. And like weird shit like that.
Yeah.
And that's a blessing, because you realize even when medical professionals are telling you will not be able to do anything like this in your life. I was worried about when I have kids, am I going to be able to pick my kid up? I'm 31.
Yeah.
Like my parents are in a better shape than I am now based on how I was feeling. So yeah, back to what you were saying. It's incredible what your body goes through, especially when you're abusing it like that. But when you stop and you realize that the body's so incredible in terms of how it can heal, there's no better feeling than starting to feel better and going, fuck, yes.
Yeah.
I feel alive again, you know?
Yeah, and it's amazing how many people get like fading bias though. After people are sober for a few years, you get used to feeling good all the time.
Yeah.
And that's another problem, because people then go, well, I was never that bad at drink, and actually maybe I can have one again. And the amount of people I coach that have done a year, 2 years, and then had a drink and cannot stop.
Really?
Again, cannot stop. And I've met 2 people, let's put it the other way around, that have had a drink and been able to stop again straight away. That's it. Out of all the people I've spoke to, 2 people. And it's amazing how you can go from having the sober life, you're feeling great, to thinking you can have one drink, to open Pandora's box, and then it's like you've got to go through a whole nother journey. It's almost like you've got that lifetime of realization that it's just shit. You got to go through the same thing. You got to go for that drink with that mate. You got to have those drinks, and you got to do a session, tick all the things. And before you know it, 2-3 years gone past, and you can't stop it again.
Yeah, that's what I found. There was a woman I was speaking to when I was doing my coaching. She was over in America, I think in Detroit, and she was somebody who's been in long-term recovery for 10, 11 years. And she says that she has a drink on Christmas, one, and then she has a drink on another birthday, and that's saying she's fine. And there's other people who majority of people, it's like have it, and then it's like you said, the waterfall's got water going down it, and you're on the slide, and it's like, poosh, I'm off. So there are people obviously who react to it differently, but with the age range that you have engaged with the Dryy app and the community that you've got, the reason I was going to ask you the age range, Matt, was with people in like the mid-20s downwards. So yeah, around about that age range. What percentage of people have you got? Do you know roughly what that group is?
Yeah, last time we checked, it was, we've got people from young, like 16, 17, 18. We got a girl at 18 who came with us, and she just joined at the start, and she's been like a big part of what we did at the very start. She's like one of our life members. We've also got people at the other end of the scale, like a couple of people. We've got Dot in Scotland, who's like been with us since the start, and we've got Eamon over in Ireland, and they're like figureheads of the community, and they sort of flying the flag for the older generation. But the majority of our people are 35 to 50. Probably 50% of them are 35 to 50, which goes on in line with that catch generation.
Yeah, definitely.
Doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, the reason I was asking that is because there's the other side of the coin now, that in the time that we're living in and the time that we've all grown through, like you said before, that it's the smartphone generation. So there's a lot of, I think it's Johan Hari's book, Lost Connections. He talks a lot about the statistics in there, particularly in the Western society for younger people. And that there's literally been younger people that have been taking their own lives off the back of, addiction to the mobile phone or social media platforms or whatever. And it's all down to this lack of community. And the reason I was asking that is, what's different that you guys are doing that is really inspiring to hear, and I know it's a magical kind of facet of what you guys are doing, and it's a key element is the community aspect, the involvement and connection with other human beings, to say we're all here to help each other out. And you gave reference to it before, and I experienced it in the corporate world. It's all hierarchy, chippiness, what position you've got, I'm going to get promoted, you're not, blah 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 blah, all them kinds of things. And I'm not slating anybody who falls into that kind of remit. We've all been there at certain stages, but there's, for this younger generation, particularly even with the COVID thing that happened as well, it was like there was this disconnect, and they didn't quite really know how to kind of maybe get involved back in with anything. And I think that what you guys are doing there is great to appeal to them groups of people as well. So it's good that you've got that demographic there that are obviously looking up to the older ones, and them guys are flying the flag and stuff. So yeah, really, really valuable.
Yeah, and what I always say is, like, humans are really nice people. It's just that beliefs and like alcohol and tiredness and situations cause them to be not nice people, and you strip all that stuff away, you strip alcohol away, and it generally strips away the other stuff as well. And we're left with a pool of people that is a big pool of people that we've had probably a handful of people in the whole time, and that all of those people that we've had to sort of kick out or we've had problems with, literally a handful of people. And other than that, it got people that are younger side to the older side and everything in between that just get on really well and support each other and help each other. And that's just lovely to see. And that's what the best of humanity. And there's no coincidence that everyone's not drinking, because I think we see the worst of it on the other side as well.
Yeah.
Amazing. Right. Well, before we wrap up, is there anything you want to mention, talk about? Obviously, the app. Where can people find the app? With website links, anything like that you want to talk about?
Yeah. So the Dryy app is spelled Dryy. Dryy app. That's in the App Stores and Google Play, etc. There's my own men's group, which is called Off The Sesh, which you can go to offthesesh.com and you can come and join me. We do every Monday night. We have a Zoom call. We catch up. We've been away in Scotland. We're going to Chamonix in June. We do like trips and just a bit of a mixture of spiritual stuff and sort of activities. And yeah, you can follow me on Instagram at Better Life Guy.
Wicked. Nice one.
Spot on.
Well, before we wrap up properly, don't get the book there because he's gonna know. Right, so we do a feature called Pass the Book on the show. It's the previous guest gets the next guest a book, not knowing who that guest is. Now, we have to do it because it's the feature, but get him the book.
What, someone else's?
The book that this person has got for you, Grant and Alrina, is The Untethered Soul.
That's mad.
That's for you.
People won't know why that's mad, will they?
Now we've had it before where the same book has popped up pretty close to each other, like The Alchemist.
The
in
Alchemist
beginning.
a few times.
But this is the first time where we've had a book recommendation where I'm passing this book on, and the next person has already gone, and I'm passing the same book on.
So for context, Matt has also asked for this book for the next guest. That's why we're all giggling here. But he said it's the best book he's ever read in his life, and he actually said to Alrina, because it's a couple friends of mine. They're incredible kind of, I call them healers, but they're chiropractors and physios and all sorts. And Grant turned to Alrina and said, please, can I choose the book? Please. So, I know it's the same, but the whole point of the show, right, is passing the book and passing knowledge on. So if you think someone could benefit from that, please pass it on to them. Yeah. Because you recommend that book to the next guest for a good reason.
Oh, mate, it's brilliant. I talk to people all the time about this book. And I think I went on my first sober holiday to Turkey, me and my missus. I took loads of books. I was feeling the best I've ever felt because I was like newly sober, and I sat and read this, and it just literally changed my life because it's the spirituality thing we've all been talking about, and this helps make it makes sense a little bit more, and it's written in a way that I can pick it up, and I do pick it up. It's on my phone as well, and I'll just read like a page of it, and it gives me enough. I could pull 3 or 4 points out of one page that would give me enough to think about the whole day that will motivate me. So anyone that hasn't read it, read it. Michael Singer, The Untethered Soul. Give it a go.
I haven't read it. I'm going to read it.
Yeah, it's wicked. And the one that's a little bit. I would say personally, I'm not very good at reading. But the one that's a little bit easier to read by the same author is The Surrender Experiment.
Yeah,
which is also a fantastic book. And I tried to dip in and out of that like you do with that one. Sometimes just kind of bring you down to earth a little bit and be like, just go with it. Yeah. And I actually need to read that right now. But anyway, Matt, thank you so much for coming down. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, really valuable. And I think a lot of the subject matter we've spoke about today as well, Matt, in previous episodes, we've had it kind of weave in and out, and it's always something because we're now on that journey, both myself and Jacky, in our own ways. And I just think that a lot of our listeners, a lot of people who patch into the podcast now are going to get some value out of the conversation, but more importantly, they know where to access Dryy app, and then the other stuff that you've mentioned, we're going to put the links in the description for here and send 100%. That out there.
I should probably mention my book as well.
Please, yes, go
Amazon,
for it.
Amazon bestseller. It's called Better Me, Better You, and it tells a lot about my story and a bit more about the stuff we discussed today. But I've written it in a way, because I'm a bit like you, I've never been good with reading or books, so I've written it in a way where it's better me, and this is what I did for reading books, for example. Better you, this is what you can do, and I've done that through like mindset, meditation, and everything that I use to make my life better has kind of got a what I did and what you could do suggestion. So they're still doing really well.
Love that.
Better me, better you. We've got another one, wicked.
Should have recommended
Matt just casually dropped in. And I'll mention the book that I've done. That's brilliant, mate. I'm going to read that.
We'll get that. Right, thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Okay.